The origin of Dropbox was actually during that SAT prep company. And the problem I had was very basic, which is I had needed to work across different computers. And which was kind of a niche use case. Most people just had like one computer, but I had like a laptop and a desktop. And there was a lot of stuff that needed to move back and forth. So the state of the art back then was a thumb drive. And after graduating from college, a lot of my friends had moved to New York, and I wanted to visit them. And to justify taking the trip, I'm like, oh, I'll get all this work done because I'll bring all my stuff with me. And then I get on the bus and realize something had gone wrong. I had forgotten my thumb drive. I'd like left it in my computer at home. And so then instead of having this 4 or 5 hours each way on the bus to work, I was just like out of luck. And there's no like Wi-Fi on the Chinatown bus from Boston to New York back then. This was like pre-iPhone, pre-Wi-Fi. And I didn't have any like Family Guy episodes on my laptop or anything. So I was just like doing nothing. And just like hating myself. And I'm like, I'm so disorganized, but then I'm like, I never want to have this problem again. And then I started coding more just again customer was just me. I had issues like this before, and I'm like, I want to like permanently solve this problem. But it wasn't some like grand, revelation. I think it was more just like, oh, yeah, here's another little side project among many little side projects. But this was one that really kind of kept pulling me very quickly after starting to work on it, because I'm like, oh, this is a really painful problem for me, but then it's also frustrating because I tried all these other tools that were supposed to solve this genre of problems with like getting to your stuff from anywhere, and none of them worked. So it didn't start as like a company, but I was like, I really just don't want to deal with this as a frustrated user of technology anymore.
Yeah. And nothing did work. And that's what I remember. There were a lot of solutions, but none of them actually were very good, right?
Yeah. And a bunch of different reasons. I think there was no like cohesive, holistic solution. So a lot of the other startups at the time kind of nibbled around different edges of the problem. So you'd sign up for one service to like back up your computer, but then you'd sign up for another service. If you needed to share big files with someone, you'd sign up for another service to like sync things between different computers. And so, first problem was that you had like 5 of these things. The second problem was that all of them like only half worked. My litmus test for this would be like to go in the support forums of these tools, and it would be like being like a battlefield medical tent or something. Like all these poor people are like, oh, my wedding photos are gone, my tax returns are gone. And I'm like, oh my God, like nobody has made like a reliable version of this. But again, it wasn't like a startup idea. It was just more like, my stuff is too important to trust to these like half-baked things. And this like really needs a rethink. And like, it would just be a lot easier if I just had like one magical folder that would sync everywhere.
So what made you apply to YC with this idea? You thought, wow, actually, this is pretty big and there is a need. I think I'll try it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I just saw how much fun that Adam and, all that whole cohort of people who had all moved to San Francisco, like right out of college together. Everybody was just having a blast. And, it was a wild time because Justin TV was one of the companies. And so they would, it's kind of like Truman Show 24/7 broadcast of like a bunch of startup nerds, like writing code and starting companies and, riding around in zip cars around San Francisco. But I just had this big FOMO, where it was actually like, I didn't even really care that much about what idea I had. I just wanted to get into Y Combinator, wanted to get into that ecosystem. But it was also pretty clear that, Dropbox was something that was like a better fit for me personally, because I had done the SAT prep thing for a couple of years at that point, and was kind of burning out on it. Especially, it's more obvious in hindsight. I was like, as much as I love standardized tests as much as anyone can, at some point you're like, I don't know if I can write another question, like math question for a fake test about parallel lines or like the train leaving Memphis at 4:22. And I was just like, I can't. And I just kept getting distracted by other stuff. But then after having that ride on the bus and starting it, I was just became obsessed with solving this problem. And then it was very clear that this would be a good candidate for Y Combinator. I was even working at another job, like as an engineer during the day. So I like quit that job even before getting into YC, because I'm like, I just want to go all in on this. And, what's the worst that can happen?